Dear students, welcome to my online class. Today, once again, I am connected with you online and again with a new topic. My today's topic is phrases, a topic from basic English grammar. And I know you have studied phrases in your school life, especially in your SSC syllabus. And my today's topic is not included in our ACC syllabus also. So there arises a question why I have selected top phrases as my today's topic. Obviously, there are some reasons. First of all, phrases are really very important. Phrases are important to understand the grammatical topics that are included in our ACC syllabus. And that is why I have selected phrases for my today's topic of discussion. And again, I think you have, though you have studied phrases in your school life, I think you have missed out some important points regarding this topic. And this is also another cause of my selecting phrases for my today's topic of discussion. In my today's class, I will also discuss different stages of learning a language, how a learner or what are the stages that a learner has to pass through in the process of learning a language. And I will also in this class discuss obviously phrases, but in my today's class I am not going to discuss phrases in detail because you have already uh, got some ideas on this topic. So here in my today's class I will just pick up the main points that are really very essential for the better understanding of phrases. My dear students, all these things, all these points I will show you in on slides. So let's move to slides and start our today's class. This is my first slide, and here in this slide you can see my today's topic, that is phrases. As I have already told you, you have got some ideas uh, about this topic in your earlier classes, that means in your school life, especially in SSC syllabus. So, my dear students, in my today's class, I will not discuss phrases in detail. I'll just pick up the key points that are really essential for the better understanding of phrases. And before starting my discussion on phrases, I would like to show you the stages, different stages that a learner or a student has to come across in the process of learning a language. And my dear students, all these stages I will show you in the form of a tree, which I actually called a language tree. And in this tree, you will see how we start climbing up the tree and how we reach at the top of my tree. So to show that language tree, we must move to our next slide. So dear students, here in this slide, you can see the title, that is language tree. It is not a natural tree which gives us oxygen, but it's a language tree. And in this tree, you will see how a learner or how a student start climbing up this tree and how he reaches the top, that is his main goal. Dear students, if I ask you what is the point from where a learner starts learning a language, and the answer obviously is later. So here at the very bottom of my language tree, you can see later, and later is the step from where we start learning a language. And what are letters, my dear students? Letters are just some symbols and they can't produce any meaning. But when some letters are used together to produce a meaning, they can form a word. And word is the second step of learning a language. So after letter, you can see comes word. And when some words are used together, we get a phrase, and after phrase we gradually we gradually come to clause, and last of all sentence. And that is the system we proceed to learn a language. And our journey starts from letter, and gradually we come to word, then phrase, then clause, and last of all sentence. And this stage lies at the top of my language tree. Actually, to make successful sentences is the main target of a learner. If one can make good sentences, then he can enjoy the beauty of a language. It is sentence is like the peak of a mountain. When one reaches the peak of a mountain, he can have a wider view of the horizon. In the same way, when a learner or when a student can make successful sentences, he can enjoy the beauty of a language. So, if you look at my language tree, where do you find the position of phrases? It lies or phrases lies at the very middle of my language tree. It also indicates the importance of phrases. My dear students, you should um, uh, notice it. And now I will start my main discussion on phrases. And to start my discussion on phrases, I will take you to my next slide. Here in this slide, you can see the title phrases. First of all, there naturally comes a question: what is a phrase? And if you read these lines, you will see the definition of a phrase. A phrase is a group of words without having a subject and a finite verb. A phrase can't make a complete sense independently. Then it is just a meaningless segment. But when it is used in a sentence, it becomes meaningful and adds extra meaning to the sentences. So, dear students, you can see a phrase is a group of words where we don't have a subject or a finite verb. So, a phrase doesn't have a subject verb combination. It's just a group of words only. And they can't make a complete sense if used independently. That means a phrase can't stand alone. If it stands alone, then it's just a meaningless segment. But when a phrase is used in a sentence, it can create extra meaning, and then it becomes meaningful. That is why, my dear students, if we want to highlight the characteristics of a phrase, what are the common aspects of a phrase? After reading this text, we obviously find the following characteristics or aspects of a phrase. First of all, a phrase is a group of words. No subject verb combination. It is the most striking quality of a phrase. A phrase never has any subject verb combination. No meaning if used alone. If you use a phrase independently, it can't produce any meaning. And last of all, having a unique meaning if used in a sentence. So, dear students, when a phrase is used in a sentence, then it becomes meaningful and it can add extra meaning to the sentence. And these are the main aspects or characteristics of a phrase. Now, let's see some examples. Here in this slide, I have included some examples. Just read these examples. Number one, COVID-19 is a deadly virus. Here, if you look at the underline or written in bold letters, the portion written in bold letters are deadly virus. It's a phrase. It's a group of words, and we don't see any subject or a finite verb here in this section. Again, example number two, we are very helpless in corona pandemic. Again, the underlined part, very helpless, is an example of a phrase. And last of all, the number of COVID-19 patients is rising very alarmingly in our country. Look at this example, my dear students, very carefully. Here I have underlined two different sections. First of all, very alarmingly, and then in our country. So here in this sentence, in this example, we notice two phrases, very alarmingly and also in our country. So this is how we can detect a phrase, a group of words from a sentence. Just go through this line. All the underlined parts in the above sentences are phrases. But in reality, phrases are not as simple as they seem to be. If we go through these three examples, it seems to us that phrases are really very easy to detect. They are really very easy to identify. Actually, the fact is not the same. Uh, Sometimes they become very complicated. Sometimes it becomes very complicated to identify a phrase. You may easily get lost unless you have a clear conception of phrases. And uh, show that complexity or complication in identification of phrases, I will give you some more examples in my next slide. So, dear student, let's move to the next slide. Here in this slide, I have included three more examples, and uh, this time phrases are shown not in the form of sentences. I have given the examples just in the form of phrases. First of all, in an old and poorly furnished house. It's a group of words, and again here in this portion we don't see any subject or any verb, so it's a phrase obviously. And what do we see at the very beginning of this phrase? Well, at the very beginning we find a preposition in. The phrase begins with a preposition, and if a phrase starts with a preposition, then we call it a prepositional phrase. So, in an old and poorly furnished house is an example of a prepositional phrase. And number two, an old and poorly furnished house. We have deleted in from the previous example, and after deleting in, we get an old and poorly furnished house. Here, it becomes a noun phrase. Just after deleting in, the phrase becomes a noun phrase. And if you look at the third example, here we find old and poorly furnished. We have dropped an at the beginning and the noun house from the end. And after deleting these two words, we find just old and poorly furnished. And then it becomes an adjective phrase. So after noticing these three examples, my dear students, we can see a phrase can lose its identity with a slight change, with a very slight change in it. And that is the main complication in identifying a phrases. So we can say there are many twists in detecting a phrase. And my dear students, now I will take you to my next slide where I will uh, discuss different types of phrases. So let's move to my next slide. In this slide, uh, what can you see? You can see types of phrases. Dear students, actually phrases are calculated on the basis of parts of speech. Just read these lines. The phrases are calculated based on parts of speech. But there, here in this lesson, I will discuss only 4 types of phrases based on 4 parts of speech. As phrases are related to parts of speeches, we know we have 8 different types of parts of speech. So there should be 8 types of phrases also. But actually, my dear students, there are many types of phrases, but I am not going to discuss all of them here in my today's class. I will just discuss 4 types of phrases based on 4 parts of speech. And these 4 types are very essential for us, and we have to face these 4 types of phrases very frequently. Now, what are the 4 types that I'm going to discuss in my today's class? Let's see. First of all, noun phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, and last of all, prepositional phrase. Apart from these 4 types, we have some other phrases also. We have verbal phrase, we have gerund phrase, we have participle phrases, we have infinitive phrases, we have many other phrases apart from these 4 types. But these 4 types are very essential because these 4 types are frequently used. We have to face this type of phrases very frequently when we write something or read something. So now, my dear students, I will discuss all these 4 types one by one. First of all, noun phrase. And let's move to my next slide to discuss noun phrase. This is noun phrase. If you read these lines, you will see the definition of a noun phrase or the aspect of a noun phrase. A noun phrase does the function of a noun and it contains a noun as its head word. So, dear students, actually, a noun phrase is a group of words that uh, functions like a noun, and we always have a noun as the head word of a noun phrase. The head word is associated with some modifiers, and in a noun phrase, the head word is obviously a noun, and this head word is often modified by some associated words. The modifying words can be used both as pre-modifiers and post-modifiers. That means these modifying words may come before the head word, or sometimes they may also come after the head word. Thus, the structure of a noun phrase is just like the following. Now, I will show you the structure of a noun phrase. Number 1, pre-modifying words plus noun is equal to noun phrase. So, pre-modifying words, that means when modifiers comes before the noun. As you see in this example, in this lockdown situation, we should provide the hungry people with food. Just if you look at the underlined part, the hungry people. What is the head word of this phrase? Obviously, people. And this head word is being modified by the adjective hungry and the article the. So, if you look at the structure of this phrase, you will see some pre-modifying words and then comes the head word noun. So, it's an example of a noun phrase. And we have another structure also. And here in this structure, you can see noun comes first and modifying words come later. So The structure is like noun plus post modifying words. It is also the structure of a noun phrase. As you can see the example, people in congested slums are highly prone to COVID-19. People is the head word here, and this head word is being modified by these words that come after the head word in congested slums. So, yeah, in these two ways, we can form a noun phrase. After noun phrase, we come to adjective phrase. As you can see here in this slide, adjective phrase. And dear students, what is the definition of an adjective phrase? Just read these lines. An adjective phrase acts like an adjective. In an adjective phrase, one or more words work together to give more information about an adjective. Any group of words describing a noun is an adjective phrase. So, dear students, you know, an adjective is a modifying word which always modifies a noun. So, a group of words which actually modifies a noun is an adjective phrase. In that case, an adjective phrase may not contain an adjective. So, it is not necessary to have an adjective in an adjective phrase, but the phrase together, the group of words together acts like an adjective. But the group functions, if you read this line, but the group functions like an adjective as a whole. If you look at this example, I have given three examples here. COVID-19 is highly infectious. Here in this example, the underlined part, highly infectious. It's an example of an adjective phrase, and we have an adjective in this portion, that is infectious. But if you look at the two examples below, that is, the girl standing by the window is my cousin. Standing by the window. If you look at this phrase, you won't find an adjective, but together, standing by the window is describing the girl. Which girl is my cousin? The girl standing by the window. So the group of words is actually describing the noun girl and is doing the function of an adjective. Similarly, in the third example, I like the book with blue cover. If I ask you, which book do you like? Obviously, the answer will be like this, the book with blue cover. And again, in this part with blue cover, um, uh, we don't, yeah, with blue cover is doing the function of an adjective. So, dear students, it's an adjective phrase. My next phrase is adverbial phrase, and to discuss adverbial phrase or adverb phrase, let's move to the next slide. Here in this slide, you can see adverb phrase. Actually, what is an adverb? An adverb, always modifies a verb, and an adverb phrase actually functions like an adverb in a sentence. Um, you have to read these lines to understand adverb phrase. An adverb phrase does the function of an adverb. In an adverb phrase, one or more words work together to give more information about an adverb. Adverbs usually modifies a verb. They give us information about how the action takes place. They also tell us when, where, and why the action takes place. So, dear students, you should notice these lines very carefully. This line actually describes or actually gives us information about the characteristic of an adverb. Through an adverb, we get some answers how the action of the verb takes place, and when does it take place, where does it take place, or why does it take place. All these answers we get from an adverb. In other words, we can say any group of words describing a verb is an adverb phrase. It matters little whether the group has an adverb or not. So, dear students, we may have an adverb in an adverb phrase, or we may not have an adverb phrase. That doesn't matter. Actually, the entire phrase, entire group of words uh, does the function like an adverb. Just look at these examples here. In April, corona infection spread very fast in Bangladesh. Here, the underlined part, very fast, is an example of adverbial phrase. If I ask how corona spread in Bangladesh in April, obviously the answer will be very fast. And in the second example also, COVID-19 spread first in the city of Wuhan, China. Again, in the city of China, though we don't have or we don't see any kind of adverb here in this group, yet the entire group is doing the function of an adverb, and thus it is also an example of an adverbial phrase. Now, the third example, in these corona days, we are living indoors to avoid infection. In these corona days, we are living indoors to avoid infection. When are we living indoors? It gives us the information of time in these corona days. And why are we living indoors in these corona days? It gives us the answer of cause to avoid infection. And that is how an adverbial phrase is modifying a verb. So this is all about adverb phrase, and I'll take you to my last step of a phrase, that is prepositional phrase, and let's move to the next slide. It's a prepositional phrase, and just read these lines. A prepositional phrase begins with a preposition having a noun or a pronoun or noun equivalent word after it. My dear students, a prepositional phrase always starts with a preposition, and after preposition comes a noun or a pronoun or noun equivalent word. It begins with a preposition, but it never functions like a preposition. Very interesting, my dear students. Uh, a prepositional phrase begins with a preposition, but it never functions like a preposition. It functions either like an adjective or like an adverb. So structurally, it may look like a prepositional phrase, but functionally, it is either an adjective or an adverb. So, dear students, you see a prepositional phrase functions sometimes like an adverb or sometimes like an adjective, but it never functions like a preposition. You should remember it, dear students. Just look at these examples of structure. First of all, the structure of prepositional phrase, very simple structure. It preposition plus noun or noun equivalent word. That means a prepositional phrase. And if you look at these examples, coronavirus can live for 7 days on the carpet. On the carpet. Here at the very beginning, we see a preposition, but on the carpet, the entire group, how does it work? It is doing the function of an adverb because it indicates place. So structurally, it's a prepositional phrase, but it functions like an adverb. And in the second example, people with high blood pressure are easy victims of coronavirus. People with high blood pressure are easy victims of coronavirus. Obviously, with high blood pressure, the group is having a preposition at the very beginning, but actually it is doing the function of an adjective because this part is describing the noun people. In this way, a prepositional phrase can do a double function. Sometimes it does the function of an adjective, and sometimes it does the function of um, an adverb. So, my dear students, this is my today's discussion on phrases. And I have discussed just four important phrases, four types of phrases. But as I have already told you, there are other types of phrases too, and you must have a clear conception on those phrases also. And though the topic phrases is not included in our syllabus, in our HSC syllabus, but still a clear conception of this topic is very essential for the better preparation of the grammatical topics included in our HSC syllabus. That is why, my dear students, phrases are very important for us. And I hope from my today's discussion, you have got a clear idea on this topic, and I also suggest you to study phrases at home from different sources. And this is all for today's class. I'm going to close my class today and hope to meet you very soon with another topic. And till then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you all.